Welcome to our next installment of our Game RT Twitch series, Roundtable, where we bring together several librarians, get a chance to chat about games, libraries, and all the way we can bring play into our spaces. I'm Danielle Costello. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the event programming co-chair for Game RT. I'm also a research and instruction librarian for Louisiana State University, and today I'm here for tech Q&A support as well as hosting this session. With me today are Molly and Rebecca. If you'd please introduce yourself. Molly, you first, since you are the star of our show today.
Hey, my name's Molly Porter. I am the Adult Services Librarian at the West Feliciana Parish Library in St. Francisville, Louisiana.
And I'm Rebecca Strang. I am a children's services librarian at Naperville Public Library in Illinois, and I am the president of Game RT.
Huzzah! Thank you both so much for joining me today. This event is being held live. However, if you need to leave or would like to watch again on Twitch, we have a video on demand accessible right after we end the session. And if you aren't following us on GameRT on our Twitch already, please do so you can keep up to date with our latest mayhem and shenanigans. For anyone not previously familiar with GameRT, we are the Games and Gaming Roundtable of the American Library Association. Our mission is to promote gaming in libraries, whether that's programming, collection development, community building, prototyping, playtesting, researching, all that we do. And we love for you to be able to delve into more of these really cool areas. So we have some links that are going to pop up for our blog, our Facebook, our website, and Discord. They'll be added to the chats as sessions progress. So please check those out as well. But before we start today's session, I'm going to let you know about some ongoing and upcoming events. Today is November the 16th, and we are in the middle of International Games Month. This is an initiative run by volunteers from library organizations around the world to reconnect communities through their libraries around education, recreation, social values, all types of games. So please definitely check out all the offerings from libraries in your communities and libraries all around the world. We also have a game jam going on, so please check that out as well. And then in December 12th at 12 Central, we're going to have a webinar called Dice Scenes and Pirate Queens, Queer Horizons, and Tabletop Role-Playing Games. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful webinar. I'm so excited to bring in P.S. Berg to talk about all these kinds of things. We're going to link to that webinar and you can see a full description of that as well. So now that that's all explained what's upcoming, let's get on today's session. This is a roundtable talk. It's very casual. I'm going to ask some questions to our guests today. They're going to tell us cool things they've been doing in their libraries. And then throughout the entire session, I'll field questions from the Twitch chat. Please feel free, whatever comes to mind, what you think is really cool. If you want to give some shout outs to the really the interesting ideas that you're doing on the same topic as well, let me know and I'll put those, I'll shout those out as well. So to start, Molly, you're doing some really cool stuff with grants and games. Tell us about that.
Yeah, okay. So my library was participating in the ALA's Thinking Money for Kids grant. The grant has ended. I don't think they're accepting applications anymore. But it was focused on financial literacy for, you know, younger people, people under 18. And we had a whole bunch of stuff in our library until about 2 days ago. Big, like it was very interactive. There were like games they could play that came with the programming. But we also had to sponsor X number of programs. And since we knew we were going to have it during International Games Month, and during October, we thought it would be fun for one of our programs to write a game that would encourage financial literacy. Um, as I said, I'm the adult services librarian, but I and the youth services librarian are each one half of the young adult services team. Um, so we do all the teen stuff together. And we thought it would be fun to write a zombie survival RPG game. Um, it was a lot of fun. Um, and that was the first time either of us had done any kind of game jam stuff as well. Um, but we wrote a game where they had to focus up front on the resources that they were going to use to survive the entire time. We gave them a set amount of money that they could spend and a set of resources that they could buy, and there were some things that were more expensive but would last longer, that kind of thing, and um, making them prioritize. And they really enjoyed it. We really didn't have time to play test. I think so. The reason that I'm on this Zoom, right, is because I kind of had to say at the last minute, "Hey, can anyone look at these files for us?" Because we're a very tiny rural library,
Mhm.
and the majority of our employees are over 50 and don't normally do any of this kind of stuff. Um, so the only people who could play test it were the people that were already working on writing it. Um, yeah, and then I guess our first play test was with the kids that night, but it was really good for working out the kinks and
Mhm.
figuring out, what worked, what didn't work, tinkering with it. So the files that are available now are the ones post playtest.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, wonderful.
and I'm sure that it could be tweaked a lot more. Um, but that would just come with time.
Mm, definitely. Yeah, that was where I first encountered Molly's wonderful idea was within the Games RT Discord. She was asking for help playtesting within the community. So one of the I think valuable things is being able to like talk with other people within the roundtable about these kinds of ideas. But what was the process of for you, Molly, writing the grant? Did you have were you just working with people within your same library group, or were you able to reach out to others for some help on that?
So for the initial grant writing, I actually wasn't here because that was in 2019.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the Thinking Money grant, they started in late 2018, I think, putting it all together. And they they being my um coworkers, my colleagues, they got everything in early 2019. And then COVID happened and everything got shut down, not just with us, but with ALA. And so they weren't able to start sending out all of the materials until this year, or
Mm.
maybe late last year. I'm not 100% sure. There were a lot of libraries participating. So I wasn't involved in writing that initial bit. I was just involved with implementing. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah. Um, and that, I mean, I could talk about that. I don't know
definitely. Yeah,
fully.
no, go fully into your experience with it because even like we're gonna have librarians that sometimes come at the beginning of the process,
Right.
sometimes come at the middle. So wherever you're at in the process, that information is really valuable to know.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, I've worked on other grant stuff, but not necessarily library grant stuff.
Mhm.
So I knew kind of what they were looking for. Um, but we basically we knew we had to host at least 4 programs, and our director, who is my immediate supervisor, because again, we're like a very tiny library, um, she wanted at least one of them to be for teens, and we were all just kind of stumped because programming for teens is really odd, and you don't know what they're gonna be interested in and what they're not at all gonna wanna
Mhm.
do. Um, and we were kind of at this stage where we had only just gotten the teens to start coming back because
Mhm.
for COVID, all of it shut down? Um, and so we didn't want to say, "Hey, now that you're back and you're enjoying stuff, come be bored and learn about something boring," right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
You want to keep the
so
energy that you have and keep rolling into the next events.
exactly. So that's when we thought about, gamifying it, making it something that could be fun.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so they're sneaky learning instead of regular learning, which is my
Devious.
favorite kind. So, so we originally thought actually of doing it Plants versus Zombies style.
Mhm.
Um,
Do that.
and I was surprised how many of the kids had actually heard of and played Plants versus Zombies
Mhm. Mhm.
because I thought that was like the old fogey game compared to the things that they're used to playing. Um, but we just couldn't figure out logistically how to make that make sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I just thought, oh, maybe writing a game from scratch, doing all of the legwork is the easier thing to do. Um,
Manifest into the world the
right,
thing you need.
right. But it worked really well, and I had a draft, and then our youth services librarian, who's awesome, by the way. Her name is Jennifer Goodo. Just gonna
Shout
throw that
out.
out there. Um, she looked over my first like very rough draft and said, "Okay, this makes sense and this doesn't, and let's talk about it." And then that day, like I said, we just kind of had an impromptu game jam
Mhm,
and um wrote everything down. Um, so probably that before the game jam, that process was like a month and a half, 2 months of me just kind of tinkering and writing things down when I thought of them and hoping that it would work. And, um, some of it made it into the game and some of it definitely did not. Um, and, uh, I don't know, a lot of the game jam process too was us just trying to figure out how to simplify it more
mhm,
because the way that I was thinking about it was a lot more complicated than it needed to be.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, we definitely got it to a much more playable and not weird spot.
It's hard, like, creating like, you go from every idea under the sun to what makes sense for other people, not just in my own head.
Right.
So commend you on being able to get it down to a playable model. So for when you're writing you wrote this program and you wrote all these bits and bobs and games for it. Was there kind of an after action report that you got to be part of for the grant writing process, where just like we did this and it's
Yes.
good, or like how did you explain like, hey, we did zombies for our grant? How, please enjoy.
Yeah, so there was a report that we needed to fill out and send in pretty recently. And they wanted the larger picture because, like I said, we had a whole setup and like half of our library was just like weird giant displays that came in huge plywood boxes and stuff. So it's that, it's the other programming we did. Um, but they wanted to know what this program was. And um, so, we were able to say, here's why them focusing on not being killed by zombies slash killing zombies actually taught them about how to use their money wisely. Um, because, for instance, if someone were to look in the files, you'd see that they had food options that they could buy at the beginning, and
Mhm,
one of them was fruit. And fruit's good for only 2 days because after that it spoils. And we had one
mhm,
kid, one of our younger kids, who was like, I want to buy 11 fruits.
mhm.
And like,
Buddy.
darling, like, here's why you might want to rethink that. And they had to kind of in real time think about you know, they can only do so much. And that was really interesting watching them go through it and like not even like playing the game because they ended up like the play test that night. I want to say maybe the last half hour was them actually playing because they spent so long like arguing about which things were the better things to buy and like haggling about prices and stuff. Um, which was cool because that's exactly what we wanted them to do. Uh, and it worked out really well. Um, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. And so is there so you wrote the report, and is it kind of the now you're at the conclusion of the grant process, and
Yeah, now we are pretty much done. We still have all of their weird display stuff, but it's packed back in the plywood boxes and we're waiting on the people to pick it up. Yeah, so it's done
excellent.
now, but the kids want to play the game again, so we're excited about that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that you have some like not just an experience that happened once, but something that you can reuse over and over from the grant. So
Yeah.
really job on that. Rebecca is here today as well to talk games and grants, and because we also have um, for Game RT, a grants program. So I want Rebecca, if you'll go in kind of the other side of things. So Molly got to talk a little bit about kind of her experience making the event and kind of fulfilling the goals of the grant that was created by her library. What's the other side from the perspective of somebody that's giving out a grant look like? And also talk a little bit about the game on grant from our Games RT.
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of funny because when I was finishing up library school, they offered a class on grants and grant writing, and I took it. And then, like, immediately after, I joined the grant board or the grant committee for Game RT, and I was like, I can immediately put this knowledge to use, which was really cool. um, But yeah, so Game RT has the Game on Grant and it's offered annually. The amount is $500, which can either be given to a single library or it can be split between two libraries as a $250 grant at this time. And any anyone who is an ALA member in good standing can apply. It doesn't matter if you're at a public school, academic, special library, as long as you're an ALA member and you're wanting to do games programming or collection development. Um, and as part of the requirements, you do need to be able to demonstrate a sustainable program. So, ideally, whatever we're supporting with the grant is something that's going to keep going in the future. It's not just like a one and done program or collection that you're doing. Um, and then demonstrating some financial need as well. And we love to see diversity in populations that people are working with too. Um, the grant application opens on January 1st every year and closes on March 1st every year. And then we get to announce the grant recipient at our ALA play event at the annual conference, which is a lot of fun. Um, and this year we actually ended up having 2 winners, so we split it the 500 into 2 $250 awards, and those went to Seward County Community College Library, in Kansas, and then the Roselle Public Library District, here in Illinois, actually, they're kind of local to me. Um, the Seward County Community College was developing a new chess program. They'd seen some interest with their students there and wanted to be able to support that. And then the Roselle Public Library District was doing a generational gaming program where seniors were playing with kids, whether it was their own grandkids or just kids who were coming to the program. Um, and we don't see a ton of programming proposals for seniors, which was one thing that attracted the grant committee to that proposal in particular. And it's kind of something that we'd like to do more of with Game RT is make sure we're focusing on diversity of age ranges for our programming too. So that is definitely something we look at when we're looking over all of the applications because we had 100 applications last year, I think. So narrowing that down to 1 or 2 and reading through all of those, um, you definitely want to make your proposal stand out from, I would like to buy a Switch so I can have a video game program, which is great and fun, but like what are you doing with that video game program? How is this going to benefit your library? What's the particular need that you're fulfilling in your community? Who are you going to be serving with this program? And how are you going to be able to sustain it beyond whatever help you get from the grant? So it's great to see diversity in the programming that is coming in with the applications as well. So it was a really cool experience to be able to go through those. There were so many that were worth choosing. It's hard to narrow it down to just 1 or 2, um, but it's fulfilling to see the round table be able to help like that.
Yeah. I'm very excited to be able to look eventually join on that board one year because it sounds like a really fascinating chance for service and just to kind of see what all the cool things the libraries are doing. Was there a particular rubric you had in mind, or was it again like the uniqueness of a program that made it something stand out for
Yeah, yeah.
selection?
We did have a rubric that we used where each application ended up having a numerical score at the end, so that would help us kind of narrow the choices down from there. And we looked at we weighed the financial need that was demonstrated. So a lot of really big libraries that have big budgets that don't need, I mean, our grant
Mhm.
is, to some libraries, $500 or $250 may not be a lot of money, but to some libraries, it is a lot of money. So weighing that financial need demonstration was a big part of it. Um, Whether or not they had a solid plan outlined for sustaining the
Mhm.
program or the collection, if they were able to show us how they plan to maintain and add to the program over time beyond what the grant would allow, or continue the program, that it wasn't just like, oh, we want to do this one program this 1 month, one time. Like, we would want it to be something that would continue, and how they plan to do that. Um, Including like how you would market the program, how you would market the collection to get the community in to use it. And then we also wanted to look at, make sure we were considering different kinds of libraries. So we didn't want to just end up only looking at things that were submitted by public libraries or academic libraries. Um, and then looking at the diversity of the community being served as well.
Excellent. Well, good job, Molly, for having a sustainable project. Well done. But also, does this change kind of, was this kind of what Rebecca said, ideas that you had going into, not necessarily since you didn't write this previous grant, but ones that you've written before, or is it kind of new?
So my background before I was in libraries is that I was a PhD candidate, um, trying to get an English degree, and I
Mhm.
was trying to run a conference, and then the conference got canceled because of COVID. So I was writing grants for myself, but also writing grants
Mm.
for the conference that we were trying to host. So it's a very different kind of um, process. But yeah, I mean, um, that has been my experience is trying to make your grant application look as put together as possible. I don't know if there's a better way of saying that.
Mhm.
Making sure that you have your plan already, that was a big thing when, for instance, we were planning this particular conference, was making sure that we had already figured out exactly what the minutia of our budget was, and all of that kind of stuff. And um the marketing partners that we would be working with and all of that. And having it up front really helped us, not
Mhm.
just with our back end planning, but with making it clear to the people we were asking for money or for assistance in some other way, um, that we meant business. So,
Gotta have a plan.
yeah.
Excellent. Um, so let's see. I went to the chat and there is a slightly adjacent question, not quite on grants, but since you both work in public libraries and are responsible for a variety of patrons, the question was on any advice for, and this is a long kind of several paragraphs. So, kind of any advice for administration that doesn't necessarily want to bring teens into their libraries. Um, but is more geared towards children are fine and adults are fine, but not teens. Um, and we can do this really quickly and then move back more into grant talking. And also,
Yeah.
if you have any questions in the chat, please feel free to put them in there.
I'm curious why the administration doesn't want teens, if they could.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like maybe it might be a particular kind of sticky wicket of it could be a history.
Right.
And there might be not enough information that is possible to give anonymously, but
Right.
Uh, thankfully, Prof. Russ has given some advice as well in there. Teens are high mayhem. They are.
They
They
are.
They
are.
are
So,
indeed.
I mean, at my library, our children's department is its own thing, and then adult teen is a
Mhm.
combined department. But our teens have their own space in the library, which I think is really important in a public library setting, that
Yes.
teens feel like they have their own space. They don't want to, I mean, they do use a lot of the tables in our children's space when they're working on projects and things, but they like to have their own space.
Mm.
And they need a place where they, I mean, they need a place where they can talk and be loud if they want to. So if your whole library is a quiet zone, that doesn't even work for children, really. Like our teens are on the same floor as our children's department, just in a separate um, area, but it's not a quiet floor at all. We do have an adult floor that is quiet, not silent, but quiet. But yeah, our first floor, our main level is we get loud. There's kids, they're in the play area, there's teens. We've got uh, a computer lab, a computer bay in the teen space, as well as an area where they can play video games and check out. We have a switch in our teen space, and they can check out controllers to play video games while they hang out. And the computers have things like Minecraft installed on them so that they can game while they're there.
Mm.
Um, but I think just letting them have a space where they feel comfortable to be themselves and have it staffed so that they can ask questions when they need to is
It might
key.
be a good proposal for Games RT grant where you create gaming space for your teens. That does bring me to a question that I had of how do you search for grants for like specific things? Maybe for the like Molly, the one you had was not necessarily geared towards games. It was geared towards a kind of wider kind of goal. But how do you kind of look for a grant and then decide, okay, I want it for games and I want even if it's not a games grant necessarily?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Um, I I've looked for grants in a couple of ways,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's that I have a project already that I know, hey, I really need help in X, Y, and Z, and so I look for grants that are geared toward that. But I have also, and I think this is more along the lines of what you're saying,
Mhm.
um, looked for grants that I thought were cool, or grants that I thought would benefit our community
Mm.
um, in some way, shape, or form, and then um, worked backward from it
Oh, mhm.
to figure out how to make it work for the group that I need to use it for or the thing that I think it could work really well for. Um, so again, I mean, kind of the process that we did with this one was, I mean, this was 3.5 years ago that we filled this grant out, right? And I wasn't even here for that
Mhm.
process. Um, and so we realized this year, oh, wait, we've got to do that thing now, and it really would have thrown plans off if we hadn't um, sat down and worked backward again from the grant and thought,
Mhm.
okay, well, how can we make this work? How can we make that work? And um, so we were just looking at not just what audiences the grant was geared towards, but
Mhm.
what subsets of that audience within our community needed the most impact
Mhm.
and the most attention. Because like we're a public library, we're a rural public library, and so there are different groups of students. We also have a lot of homeschool students, and that was one of the things that we were hoping to address with the teen programming because a lot of our teens are homeschool kids that don't have a lot of social interaction
Mm.
outside of uh, coming to our programs. Um, and so it was a way of trying to address, making it fit our community, not just the larger picture.
Mhm. Excellent. And so you mentioned a timeline of 3 years. Do you think that's common from your experience? You've done a couple different things, or was just COVID the it's
Yeah, it was entirely because of COVID because I think we were supposed to have this in 2020. And then ALA paused all of it because
Mhm.
of the pandemic. So it was definitely a more extended timeline. And for a long time, we didn't know when it was going to be starting up again
Mhm.
for all of the participating libraries. So it's very different. I do also have ideas about the previous question
Yeah,
about
yeah.
teens in the library, but I
100%. Go
don't
for
want
it,
to throw
Molly.
us off.
I will bring us back around.
Okay. Yeah. So for us, we did have some community members when we started up the teen programming that were saying, "Oh, I don't know about that," because a lot of our community is, or I should say, a lot of the community members who are regularly at the library here are the older population, the retirees, and they were very concerned about having a lot of teens in the library. But I will say that the teens who are here regularly for our programs are not always the same teens that have in the past caused issues.
Mhm.
That being said, I think there's a way that you can work with the teens that have caused issues because sometimes it's just that they don't have anything to do or that they
Mhm.
don't feel like they're being listened to, you know? So we have like a set of tasks that we can say, "Hey, do you want to come help me with this?" And that redirects them and then they're not doing the troublemaking thing anymore. They're like helping us strip books, which they always enjoy because they get to use Sharpies and draw all over books. Um, so energy redirecting can help,
Yeah.
but if you make it clear to your boss that there are still teens in your community who aren't being served, right?
Mhm.
And who could probably use the time, wisely and could use the time to get to know each other and things like that. Because all of our kids are like the ones that don't have anything else to do,
Mhm. Which is why we
They're
have games and
right,
collections
right.
for them to be able to
Oh,
explore and have some time in.
yeah.
We did have a question from Library Lady 39 asking about resources for sites to find grants for games programming and collection development. There was a link, all the resources we have, but I'm going to pitch it to y'all because Lady Library is trying to get off the ground at their library, but have very limited funds, trying to rein it. Get the donations, but we'll have some specific games they have in mind for patrons. So, any ideas for grants in particular, or any resources you guys think other than the games on grant by Game RT? We do have a grant from the roundtable for you.
Sorry, she was having trouble accessing our link and I was updating the permissions and missed your question.
Okay, no, any resources? It's fine. This is why it's roundtable.
Multitasking.
Yay! We're a very small round table and we're all doing everything at once. But yes, so the question is to realign. What kinds of resources or grants do you have? Can you kind of gear Lady Library towards for building their collection because they have very limited funds? So it doesn't have to be just grants, although that is the topic of the day. So if you know of any other grants that might be out there, or if there's any other kinds of ways you can think to get games in her library or their library.
Yeah, I mean, aside from like the grant specific one, or sorry, the gaming specific ones linked in the resource, I really any library grant out there that you can find. If you're building a program or you're making a collection and the reason you're building that program or collection ties to the mission of the grant or your library, it almost any grant that you're working with for libraries you can use. It doesn't need to be a gaming specific grant. Um, and like Molly did, like you built a whole game around the specific mission of a grant, which is a really cool idea that I think more people should do. Um, but tailoring and making sure that the vision and mission of what you're doing, if you can link it to the grant, I mean, it doesn't need to be a gaming specific grant that you're pursuing.
I know a couple that I can send to you, Danielle, right now.
Yes.
Um,
And if you want
so
to pop them in chat, I can also. Oh, thank you
yeah,
so much. I will pop them in chat as we go.
So one of them is a Magic the Gathering program. And it's what's it called? Magic Kids by Weird Cards. And it's about starting a Magic the Gathering program for kids in your library or school. Um, and they provide resources like cards and like setups and stuff like that. Um, there's also one that I have been it's a program that I've been participating in the background um, through the library, not library, the Gaming Manufacturers Association, Gamma,
Gamma. Mhm.
and they have a library gaming pilot that they're working on. I don't know if they're going to
I
roll it
can
out
tell
more
you all
broadly.
about that because we worked with them on that.
Yeah.
Go for it,
um,
Rebecca. I will find links.
yeah, so we're hoping the pilot, it's just wrapping up,
Yeah.
the partnership pilot. So we actually just had a meeting with them the other day, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to continue with like a bigger pilot, like repilot next year to work out some of the kinks of this year. But it's a really cool project that myself and Jen Bartlett, who is one of our board members, and Thomas Vos, who is another of our board members, have been working with Gamma on for like 3 years at this point, trying to get this thing going. Um, but yeah, it partners libraries with both games publishers and local game stores, so that you have like at your fingertips a game that you can do your program with, and then people who can help your staff learn the game and help you learn how to teach the game to people who are attending your programs. So we should have news about that hopefully soon-ish. We're still, dealing with the wrap up of getting all of the
Right.
feedback from the pilot.
Yes.
And one thing I will say is that the sometimes the best thing to do is look at a problem sideways and not necessarily you don't once again need the games. You need to kind of consider what your patrons are and what their needs are and then just spin a story. Like games are about communication. If that's something you need or a grant needs is they want to do more communication. Sometimes it's about like maybe they want more STEM stuff. There's a whole list of STEM games that will fit your needs.
Mhm.
Maybe it's about math, once again, mathematical games. Maybe it's about community building. That's entirely what social games are for and bringing people together. So it's about like, think about what, like, all the kind of field of games can do for you and then kind of go run the gamut of a variety of different grants out there. I did link in the resource list. There is a blog on just kind of grants that are happening in the library world. So take a look at that blog and kind of run through and then kind of work sideways. It's like, okay, here is the thing that matches, here's the thing that matches, pull them together. And then if you ever need any help with that, there's also the games programming. Uh, Game RT's like entire Discord is all about, and League of Librarians on Facebook is all about making sure that we have a lot of resources and a lot of kind of brain think meet space together where we can just be like, okay, we're going to help you get through your problems and solutions. From Crafty Kaiju, are there any program specifics to Dungeons and Dragons? I think it's a wonderful game to promote reading, literacy, math, developing interpersonal skills, creative problems, and solving conflict resolution. So does Dungeons and Dragons do like don't they have kits?
They actually
They
have a new educator like whole toolkit thing that they've made. Let me pull up the link for that. They
Dun
used to
they
do
dun.
did
like
just put a link for a book. Yeah. Go ahead.
for the book.
Yeah. Well, no, for a different it's coming out next year. Sorry.
Let me pull up the link really quick. They used to do kits like where you could get a digital kit for D&D Beyond and a bunch of Magic the Gathering stuff, and then they paused that, and now they've brought in this new D&D educator uh, resources thing, which is cool. So here's the link for that. Um, but they've created like classroom curriculums that you can use for D&D, and they've got an after school kit that you can request, and some webinars that they've made with the International Literacy Association on how to strengthen literacy skills with D&D. So they've got those that you can watch on demand, and then they're showing a register now for the third part, but I think that is actually already happened. That was in October. Um, but yeah, all of those are on that educator page. And then Molly, you were sharing the book.
Yeah, there's a book called Let's Roll that's coming out next year, and it's all about starting a D&D program. Um, I think specifically in libraries, but maybe in schools as well. Um, if you've never played D&D or played very little and have no idea what's happening. So, yeah, about how to start it up, how to make it work for your players, how to do it with safety tools, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, and Lucas is including in that book, he's putting case studies from specific, like actual case studies from libraries who have implemented programs like that too. So I'm looking forward to seeing those.
me too.
Excellent. So when you're writing a grant, because we're talking about books and kind of research that case studies and all that, does it help to have other examples that libraries have done where it's like, look, Molly's library is really successful here and this is what they did. I want to emulate her. Or is it better just kind of like focus in on what you've done for or what you plan to do?
I mean, obviously looking to successful programs is great for inspiration, but if you're applying for a grant, I would strongly, strongly recommend that you take that inspiration and tailor it to your specific community.
Mhm.
Um, because even though there's going to be some similarities, I mean, every community has unique needs. And if you can illustrate those, it's going to make your program better. You're going to connect with your community better. And it's going to make your grant sound like you've really thought about why your community wants this program. Like, why this for your community and why right now?
And so we've talked about sustainability, kind of localization for your community, having a plan, follow through. What other kinds of things do you think are super critical to getting in that grant application and making your grant look special?
One thing th- l- every library I feel like has their own process of doing things. And if you're filling out a grant, make sure that if you're not the supervisor, that your supervisor knows what you're doing. Because we've had like people have applied for grants and then or other like, you know, the pilot program we talked about with Gamma. And when you apply for programs like that without the buy-in of your management, it can really gum up the works and slow things down, or even just pull you out of the running if your management decides that they're not actually on board with what you want to do, which is not good for you. So make sure you've got buy-in. Support from whoever you're reporting to when you're filling out these applications or asking for, even if you're doing things like asking for donations for your library or signing up for cool programs, make sure you have that buy-in so that everybody's on the same page, because when it comes to the onboarding process, it's going to be a lot faster if the the coordinators for those grants or programs have all of the contact information that they need, and they can get everybody lined up with what they need to do. Yes.
Yeah, if I could piggyback on that, I would say it's also important in the planning and writing your grant process to have staff buy-in,
Hmm.
Oh,
because you are going to need help implementing anything you do. Um, and again, coming from a very tiny library where we have, I think, 8 staff total to do everything. Um, we need to be able to make sure that what we want to do, one, works for everybody else's schedule, and two, that they would be even able to help. Even like having time is not the same thing as like being able to do
Hmm.
X task, you know?
Right.
Um, and so staff buy in is also very important.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of the sustainability factor too. Like
Yeah.
when you're writing about the program, if you can include even as part of the budget, like considering staff time, like yes, you have staff, but staff cost money.
Yes.
They're not just
Mhm.
there. Um, so that all gets part of the big picture of the budget and the sustainability. Um, so if you can outline like I want to have this program and I want it to serve, X number of patrons, how many staff am I going to need? Like what is staff time going to look like as part of our budget for implementing this?
Mhm.
Excellent. So, have to ask it disasters, horrible mistakes. Molly, do you have any lessons learned? Also, Rebecca, have you seen anything? We could be completely anonymous, or because I want everybody to learn from what we've done horribly awry.
Oh gosh. Oh, I've made so many mistakes in my life. No. Um, no. I um I mean, I've definitely had experiences having to completely readjust the plan, like when we were in a previous life, planning a conference that had to completely get scrapped because of a pandemic, right? Um,
Hmm.
all of
I'll do it.
that. That happened.
You couldn't have been
Yeah.
expected to realize, a
Right.
world changing phenomena was around the corner.
Right.
Or let me rephrase, Rebecca. What's kind of a glaring red flag when you read, other than like the not getting management buy-in, like when you're reading through the grants that we get proposed for the game on? What's something that you're like, oh, they should have done something a little different?
I mean, if for me, if your grant isn't telling, if your application isn't telling a story, you don't really know why. Like you just want the money and you don't really know, like you just
Hmm.
there's no reason behind why you're filling this out. I mean, it's easy to answer questions with like, what do you want this grant for? A gaming
Hmm.
program. What do you want to purchase with it? A Nintendo Switch. But why? Like,
Hmm.
and we've received applications where it just says, I want to buy a Nintendo Switch so I can have video gaming at my library. And that's really all the grant said. And that's not really giving us a whole lot to go on when we've got 100 applications that we're sorting through. Um, it makes it easy to put that one aside and look on to the next one.
What I'm hearing from you, Rebecca, is that I need to role play in my grant application and be like, let me weave a story of a
Right.
poor little library down in Louisiana in the bayou somewhere.
In the bayou.
Yeah, and I think the Game On grant that Game RT does has a limit of like 250 words. So it's not like we're asking you to write a novel. Um, but you need to paint a picture
Mhm.
and
Uh,
let
the
us know.
the couple of grant writing classes I've taken do definitely emphasize the more narrative nature and need to be like, everybody is asking for money. What
Mhm.
makes you unique is your story
Mhm.
to your community, to your patrons, to your particular situation, the why of it. That's what hooks in donors,
It's the
the
elevator pitch.
yeah,
Yeah. Elevator
Yeah.
pitch your project.
yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
and if grants allow you to include visuals, we had some folks include photos of past programs that they've done that were successful as reasons why they want to continue with the programming and why they need the money to continue. And that was big.
mhm.
Uh, Roselle had some photos of past programs that they had done, and it really illustrated. They were the ones who did the multi-generational gaming program, and it was really cool to see. So,
Yeah. I think also like what's unique about kind of the grants we're talking about wanting to write are there games are just part of the zeitgeist now, and it's on the rise, like actual plays, the board game renaissance, it's on the minds of a lot of people, but once again can be pricey, and there's the need that we fulfill as libraries to be able to get these in. I don't think it's a hard sell necessarily, just one that might be a little unique, but I think we're on the up and up, y'all. So Get those grants, get that money, get into the library, get your games into the libraries. If anybody has questions, please feel free to put them in chat. We got about 10 minutes and our until our wonderful guests leave us forever till the next time I bring them into a round table. It's fine. Work forever, everyone. Work forever. Sustainably, though.
Play forever.
Play forever. There we go. Molly, do you have any kind of insights into the experience? Would you do it again? Is there a future project grant you're looking towards?
Oh goodness. I was really excited about oh, it's the current one. It's in our resource doc and I can't think of the name of it. Um the
Oh, I'm about
where is
to.
it?
I know. I have 12 tabs open and none of
Right.
them are the one I want to talk about.
The
The
library is
library's
transforming.
transforming communities.
There it
Yes.
is. All at the
That's
same
the
time.
one.
More
Um
professional.
yeah, and so that one's exciting because there are a lot of things that we could do in our rural community that I think would really help. Um, right now, we are working on digital literacy stuff. So we might try to do something for that. I'm not 100% sure um, how yet to finagle my way into putting a game into that programming, but I'm working on it. Um,
You'll get there.
yeah, I will say one thing that was really fun is when we were in the process of playing through it with the, teens that night, they were hearing us talk a lot about how, "Oh my god, y'all, don't worry, we wrote this today, so we're all learning together." And they got very excited about the idea of a game jam,
Ooh.
and that was something that we thought was gonna be a much harder sell for them,
Hmm.
and it's not at all, and they're really into it. So, um,
I
that's the
love
kind of
taking that
thing
energy.
that
Yeah.
you can
Energy's
do,
good.
and you never know what the kids are gonna wanna do until you throw it out there and they run with it, so
Yeah, we just did a game jam with my 3rd to 6th grade RPG club last week for Dinovember and
fun.
International Games Month, and we did a hack of Lasers and Feelings and turned
That
it
sounds
into a game
amazing.
about dinosaurs called Hunt and Hide. Those were the 2 stats they picked.
I love
There you
it.
go.
It was so much fun.
I love it. Work with your communities. They are very passionate folks. So let's see. Got about 7 more minutes. Come on, chat. There's 15 of you theoretically in there that aren't bots. I hope. I hope you're real librarians or people just hanging out with us today at the Games RT Grants and Gaming Roundtable. We have a bunch of cool stuff coming up. We're going to do more roundtables. If there's a roundtable that y'all want us to do, let us know. Email us, all that good stuff. Hit us up on Discord, Facebook, Twitter. Until then, let's see if I have any more questions for y'all because I did have a list. We've gone a little bit off script, but that's the fun of roundtable. Uh, so reactions to patrons. So, Rebecca, tell us more about kind of the reactions the patrons have had to the grants that have we've awarded and like the reactions the libraries have had it for any follow-up on those grants that Game RT has awarded.
So I wasn't on the committee for the first 2 that we awarded, but I see Thomas in chat, and I believe Thomas was on the committee for the first 2 we've awarded. So Thomas, if you've heard from any of those libraries, feel free to share in chat. Um, and the ones we awarded this year, we haven't heard back from them yet because they just got it. They were just awarded in
Mhm.
June. So we haven't
We got a little
heard
bit of time.
their follow-up yet. Yeah, but they were very excited to receive them, obviously. So yeah.
Excellent. Let's see. So I don't want air silence, and I'm waiting for Thomas to answer.
Well, Thomas also asked, oh
Oh,
wow,
About
there's
vintage
more
games,
oh,
yeah.
comments coming
more
in.
comments. Thank you, chat. That air was horrible to me. Is there a useful library listserv Discord messaging board that you all find useful? Like if there was a new grant announced, people would be there to hear about it. So where do we find like librarians list library? What's a good resource for learning a bit more about grants? I'm gonna hit our resource. I'm gonna share our resources page that we made. That has a lot of good stuff for you. Wandering Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, anything that is gaming specific will often get posted to GameRT's Discord server. Um, so definitely join us there if you're not there, and the links are in that resource doc that
Mhm.
was just shared. Um, but libraries, at least like Discord stuff, I'm not part of any other. I'm just on all the gaming things, not generic library.
Let me see. I am in um RPG Talk, which is
Oh
I
yeah.
know, yeah, and that one is helpful. Um I also occasionally will troll through the UPenn CFP listserv and see if there are any um gamification or ludicity or ergodicity kind of topics floating around in the calls for papers, because occasionally there is a conference that looks
Mhm.
relevant. Um, so
I like Web Junction for learning more
yes,
about grants and having free webinars. There's always at least, I want to say, there's a big list every month on Web Junction of all the free webinars going in either the library world or library adjacent world for information literacy kinds of stuff. And there's at least two grant writing classes or educational bits on either writing, grant seeking, grant anything on like all that good stuff is usually
yeah,
there. It was not hard to find. They have a couple and I listed them of like just kind of their banked um classes slash courses in there that you can like learn good stuff from. And then last question, what gaming news or resources do you guys generally follow? I follow way too many people on Twitter. That makes me very sad to think about that all my game stuff might collapse one day. But I just follow a lot of game devs, and game devs are very, very good at broadcasting everybody, all the community stuff and uplifting the larger community of what is amazing and going on there.
Yeah, I'm going to our RPG guild Discord server because I know there were links shared there that I can post. Um, and if you're not on there, you can join us there too.
Please do.
But
We actually linked to. We might not have linked the actual. 'Cause I think linked the regular Discord, not the our role playing Discord.
I can
That's
grab an
okay.
invite.
Yes, please. Because we want you to be on all the things with us forever and always. Oh, I found it. There it is.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank you both so much for coming here today, talk grants, talk libraries, talk games with me, and the wonderful audience we've had today. Thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, Twitch. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and making this a wonderful, wonderful experience. Any final closing thoughts or encouraging words?
if anyone wants the non-PDF versions of the zombie game files, just let me know and I can get those to you.
And Molly, did you put your contact information in the
Oh, I don't know.
yeah. Molly will put her contact information
Yes.
in the wonderful resource guide we've given out. Please definitely check that out. It's kind of a living guide if we think about any resources we think are useful and helpful for grant writing post this session. We'll pop them in there and make sure like y'all have all that good information. And Rebecca, any closing thoughts?
Just I mean, games are widespreading media, so don't feel limited if you're looking at grants or you're looking for ideas for your community. I mean, games can be like choose your own adventure, escape room, real space things. It doesn't have to be, video games or board games if that's not what is going to suit your community. So it's a big wide world. And you can I like modding things, and so you can just like Molly did with her grant, like you can mold the grant around what you want it to do if you think about it the right way. So
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you both so much. And with that, this has been Games RT Roundtable Roundtable. Please join us again on Twitch as we have more fun shenanigans. Bye bye.